In this video, we'll be going over IRS Form 8821, Tax Information Authorization. So we recorded this video a little over a year ago in early 2023, and I wanted to go back and re-record this to make sure that we covered everything since we're also updating the article to include a little bit more detail and to incorporate some of the contents or the comments that we've received over the past year or so. So what we'll do is we'll go over this form, and then we're going to go over some of the key questions that have come up and address them accordingly. Let's go ahead and start with just a basic understanding of what this tax form is supposed to do. So IRS Form 8821 is supposed to help taxpayers give authority to the IRS to release certain information to a designated person. For example, the IRS actually is required by federal law to take considerable steps to safeguard confidential tax information on behalf of each taxpayer. In a previous video, we covered IRS Form 2848, which is the power of attorney form. This basically gives the right to someone for them to represent you in front of the IRS. And based on that, you can kind of manage what information they're allowed to have access to. So the difference between the power of attorney form and this tax information authorization form is that IRS Form 8821 only allows your designated individual to receive tax information on your behalf. For example, you may want to give your power of attorney form to a CPA that does your tax return, but you may also want to authorize your financial planner who helps you with tax planning meetings throughout the year to receive certain information from the IRS on your behalf. I do know quite a few financial planners who receive tax information from their clients. This is kind of a step ahead of that, where those individuals can also just request specified information directly from the IRS. And that way the client doesn't have to be involved in every single information request that person may have. And then naturally that leads to a more productive meeting because the financial planner is able to use the information to do their tax planning. So that would be an example of tax information authorization as opposed to a power of attorney. Using this tax information authorization tool, the financial planner would be able to receive information but can't really correspond or represent you in front of the IRS, nor should they be able to unless they happen to also be your tax professional. So let's go ahead and cover down on this form, and then I'll circle back on some of the notes and things that I've covered in the update to the article. So this is a one-page form. It's pretty straightforward. So let's go ahead and start at the top. At the top of the form is item 1, and that's the taxpayer information. So for most individuals, you would enter the taxpayer's name and address. So in this case, our hero, John Doe, has entered his address, taxpayer information, and his daytime telephone number. If you've recently changed your address, it's always a good practice to make sure that you update your your address on file. So you can use IRS Form 8822 to change your personal address. You can use IRS Form 8822-B to change a business address. So other notes in line 1 If you are a corporation or a partnership, you would enter your name. This taxpayer ID number would be the employer identification number, and then the business address and telephone number. Estates and trusts can file this. You would again use the name and title and address of either the trustee and the name and the employer ID number of the trust, or for the estate. If the estate does not have a separate tax ID number, then you would enter the decedent's social security number or individual taxpayer ID number. So in line 2, you would enter a designee's full name and mailing address. So in this case, I entered Acme Tax Solutions. Let's just say that they're on 1000 Main Street in John Doe's hometown. So they happen to be registered on the CAF, which is the IRS's centralized authorization file. So in order to help safeguard taxpayer information, the IRS maintains the centralized authorization file, and every person that has an authorization that's been approved and processed receives a unique 9-digit identification number known as the CAF number. So in this case, Acme Tax Solutions has a CAF number. That means an IRS employee can do a query within the CAF under that CAF number to see which taxpayers, whether they're businesses, other entities, or individuals, have given that person access to their information. So the CAF also has, other guidelines so that there's a strict regulation of who's able to enter the CAF as an IRS employee. It's not available to every single person, and most people probably have some sort of compartmented access, kind of like a need-to-know basis for their area of responsibility. In other words, the CAF isn't just some big share drive that every IRS employee can see, only the ones that have a specific function in certain transactions. The PTIN would be the preparer tax ID number. So every tax preparer, not necessarily a tax professional, but anyone that receives compensation for preparing income taxes, has a unique preparer ID number. That's listed here. Telephone number, fax number. You would check if there's a new address, if there's a new phone number, or a fax number. If you want this person to receive copies of notices and communications, there's a check mark. You can designate two designees on this form, so we could do this twice. If you wanted to put more than 2, then you would attach a list with the exact information as outlined, and then you would check the box under line 2. However, you can only list 2 people that are going to receive copies of notices and communications. So that's an important distinction. You would want to make sure that the 2 primary designees are listed on the form, and then any other additional ones would be listed separately. If you're working with a tax preparation firm or an accounting firm that does this routinely, most likely they will complete this part for you. This is just for your understanding. In line 3, we're going to enter information about specific tax information that you would authorize designees to inspect. So what you want to avoid is trying to give some sort of blanket approval for all tax matters. The IRS actually will reject your Form 8821 if you put something like all taxes, all tax forms, all tax periods. So you can specifically state a tax matter in column D. You can indicate the type of tax information. Let's imagine that you're a business owner, but this is your personal accountant, so you have you have someone that does the books for you and the tax on your business side, but you're really focused on making sure that your tax preparer has information about your personal business tax return. They don't need to know anything about your business side of things. So you're going to state income tax. My tax form is my form 1040 or 1040 NR or 1040 SR as appropriate. And then you're going to specify the tax years or periods. So if you're trying to give someone access to payroll, it might be in quarters, things of that nature. So there you can list future years in here. So if we're recording this in 2024, you could put 2025, you could put 2026. However, you cannot go past the 3-year point of the end of the calendar year that we're filing the tax information request. So if we're filing this in 2024, then we go to December 31st of 2024, we cannot authorize a period that is more than 3 years from that date. So the latest we can extend an authorization on file is December 31st of 2027. So that you can put whatever you want, but that is how the IRS would process your form. They won't record this on the CAF system any later than December 31st of 2027. So, and then if you want to narrow down specific tax issues that you want to cover in column D, for example, you could write in, I only want this person to know lien information or balance due. So you can also enter not applicable or NA if you're not limiting your designee's authority to inspect or receive all information covered here. So you can enter an NA in column D if you want them to be able to access all of this information for, your specific tax return and specific years or periods. So what I would probably suggest is if you did want to, let's just say, authorize gift tax returns for some reason, then you would say, all right, they're going to also have access on IRS Form 709, and we're going to go back to the first year that I started, having to report gift tax calculations. So I want my tax preparer to be able to receive these forms to make sure that they were filed properly, or if they need to make any adjustments, that I have given them that type of permission. But, I only want them to have received information for up to the current year. And after that, then we'll figure things out. So you can specify this however you want. Again, generally, if you're working with a tax professional, they'll probably complete this out basically reflecting the information they need to receive based on your conversations. So in line 4, we're going to check this if there's a tax information authorization for a specific use that's not recorded in the CAF. The form instructions and our article contain a complete list of all of examples of different requests that aren't covered in the centralized authorization file. For example, requests for specific information returns. Maybe you need to obtain copies of previous year 1099s, W-2s, all of those information returns that would be used to help file your Form 1040. This would be, you can specifically request use of those. You would also have to if you check line 4, then your designee should mail or fax your completed form to the IRS office that handles the matter. Otherwise, they would bring a copy of your Form 8821 to each appointment to inspect or receive information. So you should make sure that, or at least your designee should make sure that they have a copy of this for each appointment if they're representing you. This does not revoke any prior tax authorizations. So if you check this box, you're going to skip box 5, because box 5 or line 5 talks about whether or not you want to retain or revoke a prior tax information authorization. So if this is not checked, the IRS will automatically revoke all prior tax information authorizations. If the box 4 is not checked, then you need to check line 5, and then you would attach a copy of your previously filed 8821 saying, this is the copy that I want to retain. Anything that is not submitted would automatically be revoked. Now, if you want to revoke a prior authorization without submitting a new authorization, then you would simply take the copy of the authorization that you have, write the word revoke across the top of it, provide a current signature and date under the original signature. So basically it would look like John Doe's already signed this on whatever date, then you would sign it again with an updated date. So there are additional instructions if you don't have a copy of that tax information authorization that you'd like to revoke. So you can send a separate notification to the IRS, and you would state the authority of the designee is revoked. You would list that person's name and address, whose authority you're revoking. You would list the tax matters and the tax periods, and then you would sign and date it. So if you're completely revoking their access to your information, then you can revoke all years, all periods, instead of listing out specific years and periods. So in line 6, you would sign it. If you're signing on behalf of a company, then it would have to be a corporate officer or a partner. If you're an estate or a trustee, like an authorized person of the taxpayer. So you would have to certify that you do have that authority to execute the form with respect to the tax issues at hand. So if you're an individual, you can sign it. If John was signing this, his wife, Mary, would have to sign a separate form for her information to be. So otherwise, married couple filing jointly, both spouses will have to do this before your information is released. So John can't do this without Mary. Mary can't do this without John. So for partners and corporations, it has to be a person that's authorized by that entity. If it's a trust, then it has to be a trustee with the authority to actually bind the trust or make decisions on behalf of the trust. So the trustee or estate representative, the executor of an estate, should have a Form 56 on file to identify them as the executor. And then you would sign and date the form, print the name, and that's it. So there are additional instructions on how to file the form, where to file the form, and some common mistakes that happened when filing this form. So I'll briefly outline. You can get the details in the article. So your filing address, you can file it by mail or by fax. It's going to depend on your state or location. So it will either go to the IRS office in Memphis, Tennessee, Ogden, Utah, or Philadelphia, PA. And again, the corresponding states, office addresses, and fax numbers are located in our article. So some of the most common mistakes that people make when filing this form, according to the IRS website, missing taxpayer signature and or the date. Literally, it says right here, right above this, that this will be returned without processing. And then it also tells you you shouldn't sign the form if it's blank or incomplete, because that means someone can go back behind you and fill in whatever they want. So you should at least know what you're signing. Item 2, a non-specific identification for your tax years or tax periods. So if you wrote in all tax years or all tax periods, that's going to get rejected. And then finally, the last thing is an incorrect either taxpayer ID number or a social security number. So those are some of the most common mistakes that the IRS makes, or notes that people make. So final note, there are a couple of different things that you should not complete IRS Form 8821 for. Specifically, two things. So we'll go over this, and then we'll also talk about what IRS Form 8821 does not allow. So let's actually talk about that first. So the form instructions are pretty clear on what a designee is not allowed to do. They're not allowed to speak on your behalf to the IRS. They're not allowed to sign a copy of this form to release information to another third party. So only you have the ability to do that. They cannot advocate for you in front of the IRS with respect to the tax law. They can only receive information. They can't execute waivers, consents, closing agreements, and they cannot represent you in any other matter before the IRS. They can literally only receive information from you. So you would not want to use this tax form if you want to give someone power of attorney privileges. Like if you want that person to represent you, you would actually complete and sign IRS Form 2848 instead. If there's a fiduciary relationship, so IRS Form 56 would be the notice of a fiduciary relationship where the fiduciary acts as if they are your, they don't act as if they're your representative. They act as if they are you. So anything that a fiduciary says or does in front of the IRS is treated as if you made that decision, or you, did that, committed that action. So IRS Form 56 for financial institutions, IRS Form 56-F is the fiduciary notification for financial institutions. And then finally, if you're simply asking for tax transcripts or tax returns, there's a whole series of forms. IRS Form 4506 is the request form for actual tax returns. IRS Form 4506-T is a request for a transcript of a tax return. IRS Form 4506-T-EZ is a short form request for that tax return transcript. And finally, IRS Form 4506-C is what's known as the IVES request for a transcript of a tax return. That last one is most commonly used by financial institutions to receive certain information. For example, if you're applying for a mortgage, this might be a convenient way for them to receive certain information to verify your mortgage without having, full authority to just dig into your tax records. So that's all we have for this video. We'll put links to the relevant articles and videos in our show notes. So if you want to read the updated version of this article, you can check it out on our website. Simply go to teachmepersonalfinance.com, type in IRS Form 8821, and you'll see the updated article there. So if you like our articles, please subscribe to our newsletter. If you like our YouTube videos, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And as always, if there's any question, if there's a topic that you'd like to see in an upcoming video, hit me up in the comments section, and I'll see what I can do to help you out. Thank you very much and have a great day.